for this coming Sunday, Reformation Sunday, we are going to read a story written by our own Pastor Alex Hoops, and it is entitled Martin Luther. Martin Luther was born in 1483 in Germany. As a young man, Luther decided to become a monk. As a monk, Luther dedicated himself to a life of fasting, prayer, confession. All day, Luther would pray for God's forgiveness. Luther hoped that through his hard work, he could please God. Luther often worried that God could never love him. Luther's mentor, Johannes, would often remind Luther of God's graciousness. Luther was encouraged to look to Jesus for love and salvation. Johannes encouraged Luther to attend the university so that he could study the Bible for himself. Luther hoped that he would find God's love through his studies. Luther was a fantastic student. Soon he became a professor at Wittenberg. As a professor, Luther began to recognize God's love and grace. As a professor, Luther would lecture on the importance of faith through God's grace. It is by grace that we are saved, and grace could not be earned. One day, a man named Tetzel came through Germany selling indulgences. For a piece of silver, a person could buy an indulgence, and in exchange, they could save someone from purgatory. Many people in Germany bought indulgences, hoping to save their loved ones from purgatory. Some could not afford indulgences and feared the worst for their loved ones. When Luther heard of this, he became angry. He wrote a series of arguments protesting the sale of indulgences. After he finished his argument, Luther nailed his protest to the front door of the castle church in Wittenberg. Many people agreed with Luther, and soon he began writing multiple arguments and protests against the actions of the church. Luther would argue that church practices should be supported by Scripture, not papal power. Luther was developing a strong following in Germany. The church in Rome, however, was not pleased with Luther. They told him that he was spreading lies and confusing the people. Luther was excommunicated from the church. Luther was devastated. He knew that he was not a liar. This is when Luther had one of his best ideas. Luther decided to translate the Greek and Hebrew Bible into German. Luther would publish this Bible and continue writing and preaching of God's love and grace. In 1825, Luther married Katharina van Bora. Together, along with Luther's friends, they began to organize a new church. Today, hundreds of millions of people worship in churches inspired by Luther's Reformation.